This video has been funded in part by the Guild via Patreon. Check out the links in the description or at the end of this video for more details. Hello everybody, my name is Gildart, and welcome back to another Pros vs Cons mini review. I have done a couple of videos leading up to the release of Touken Ranbu Warriors, and now it is finally time to take a look at the full game. For those of you that haven't watched the first two videos, don't worry. I will go over everything from those in this mini review. First off, Touken Ranbu is a media franchise where various weapons from Japanese history have been given personification. They are given this life in human-like form thanks to the Saniwa, which is kind of like their master or god. These personifications are referred to as Toukendanshi, and they live in a castle called a Honmaru. The Toukendanshi of this story live in a Honmaru that is currently in disarray as their Saniwa is gone. However, they still continue to fight against the History Retrograde Army, or HRA, a time-traveling army whose only aim is to change history to their whim. To help the Toukendanshi take on this fight, Konosuke shows up to provide power to the Toukendanshi. I'm not gonna go too far into the story here, but I hope this gives you an idea of what Touken Ranbu is. Not only is there a game out there where you can play and get some background on this world, but there are animes that include the characters from Touken Ranbu Warriors. I've made a point not to experience too much of Touken Ranbu outside of this game so that I can give an opinion as a Warriors fan. That being said, I did play a little bit of the mobile game and watch the first episode of the anime, so I can't say I'm going in completely blind. I did play through the demo for this game a multitude of times thanks to making the first video on the Japanese Switch demo, and again not too long after on the English PC demo. Though the demo was only the tutorial, I had felt like Touken Ranbu Warriors was not meant to be the next best Warriors game. It didn't feel like Koei Tecmo was trying to make this the game that longtime fans would flock to. Instead, to me, it felt like an entryway into the world of Musou games as well as into the world of Touken Ranbu. This is also the first Ruby Party game to make its way to the West. If you're not familiar with Ruby Party, they make a plethora of ultimate games including L'Accordadoro, which is based around an interest of music, as well as Haruka Naru Toki no Nakade, or as it's known in English, Haruka Beyond the Stream of Time. Some of the characters from the Haruka series even appear in Warriors All-Stars, so that alone should tell you how popular Ruby Party games are in Japan. So with all that being said, I know this is a longer intro than usual for my mini reviews, but I really do want to put it into perspective how insane it is that we were able to get this localized. Personally, I would have loved to see more Ruby Party games come to the West after this. I actually enjoyed the L'Accordadoro anime Blue Sky. I also own a couple of the L'Accordadoro and Haruka games, but for obvious reasons I can't play them. So all of that is to ask whether or not Touken Ranbu Warriors serves as a good entry point for newcomers to the Musou franchise, and whether or not it is a good gateway to Ruby Party's games. Well, before we go too far, don't forget to give this video a like, comment with your thoughts below, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. Alright, it's time to get those answers. Ready, set, pros. First of all, can we talk about how great this game looks? This may be the first time that I'm reviewing a PC version of a Warriors game, but it's not the first Warriors game I've played on PC. I wouldn't say it's the absolute best you'll see on PC, but the visuals do look good. The cel-shaded graphics really help to lean into the anime art style of the Touken Ranbu world. Every character looks gorgeous, and it's not just because the roster is filled to the brim with enough pretty boys to make an anime convention cream. Koei Tecmo has successfully translated the 2D characters from the Touken Ranbu world into 3D. I mentioned it in the first video that I felt like a lot of the characters had costumes that looked like school or military outfits with some armor added on, but I'll be honest, it doesn't detract from the overall looks by any means. There's not many characters I'd say I dislike the look of. I also need to mention the story as a pro here because I went in not expecting anything special, but from what I've played of the first chapter, it does tie back into the Sengoku period. The first chapter finds you following Hideyoshi and Kanbei as they fight against the Akechi and Mori. Through this first chapter, the HRA are siding with every possible enemy to Hideyoshi, trying to stop him from achieving unification. Konosuke sends out the 5th team, consisting of Yamabangiri Kunihiro and Yamabangiri Chogi. When I discussed my thoughts on the English PC demo, I mentioned that the rivalry between these two seemed like a great subplot to explore, and I wasn't wrong. Essentially, the reason these two have such a rivalry is that Kunihiro was originally forged as a copy of Chogi, both being Uchikatana-style swords. Kunihiro Kunihiro being named the leader of the 5th team even though he is a copy of Chogi really gives him imposter syndrome. Chogi keeps poking fun at him, even calling him fake Kun on multiple occasions, but neither of them really getting into scraps about it. Chogi just keeps cracking jokes and Kunihiro just keeps acting emo. But this first chapter not only serves as a great example of the story Touken Ranbu will go down, but also serves as a great way to see these two characters interact, and like I thought, it's a great subplot on top of the main story that you'll be getting. Now, we need to talk about the combat because I really do think this game is a great entry title for newcomers to the action or hack and slash genres. If you've never played a Musou game before and you're unsure if you'd enjoy them, this provides simple controls without being too much of a single button masher. So if you're a long-time Musou fan looking for a smooth time with a new title, this would also be for you. You have a normal attack which is mapped to X on PC or Y on Switch, then instead of having a charge attack, you have a special attack which is mapped to Y on PC or X on Switch. This special attack will change depending on what special attacks you have unlocked and when you use it during your normal attack combo. You can also map 4 specific special attacks to be used at any time by holding down the right bumper and hitting the corresponding face buttons. You also have a Musou-like move called Hisatsu, which is mapped to B on PC or A on Switch. This can be a nice, flashy, and very well animated attack that doesn't deal a great amount of damage, but should be more used for its area of effect. Depending on the stage, you can also bring in a partner to join you in battle. You can press the right trigger to activate a cooperative attack called Partner Mode. This attack is on a cooldown, but can deal a good amount of damage when in a pinch. But that's not all a partner is good for, because you can enter Soto Mode by pressing the left trigger. This is kind of like a dual rage mode where your partner will attack with you until the Soto bar depletes, or you finish it by activating a Soto Hisatsu. This is essentially a joint Musou where we get another beautifully animated attack. This is actually really well animated because depending on whether your character is the player's character or the partner, they will have the same animation every time, but it looks so well coordinated no matter who is paired with who. I gotta give them props for designing it so well. I am just so glad it doesn't feel like the Spirit Ball attack that was in Warriors Orochi 4. Going back a step though, I do want to stress the fact that your special attacks change based on where in the normal attack combo you activate it. This was a concern for me during the demo because you only have access to 2 special attacks, but you can buy skills between battles from stat increases to these special attacks. The more you buy, the more varied your combos will be. At first I didn't like this because I was used to the normal leveling progress in most Warriors games, but then as the game went on and I reached level 14 fairly quickly, I realized that this method does a better job of giving the player a feeling of progression as the game goes on. I played for about 5 to 7 hours of the full game post-tutorial, and I think it would have been worse to have a character's full moveset at this point in the game. There are also mini games that you can play when you're in your Honmaru, which acts as your menu between stages. These mini games are a nice distraction between the main gameplay loop. Doing them can get you additional money, bond, experience, and materials. I found materials were probably the most important thing starting off because that's what you need in order to buy the different skills. Money can be used to buy said material, but prices are so high you might as well save your money to buy equipment for your Tokendanshi. Obviously, experience is important for leveling them up, but you also gain experience by assigning your Tokendanshi to different parts of the Honmaru. Finally, bond is important not only for unlocking conversations, but there are benefits for taking 2 characters with a high bond into a stage together. If your partner is a high enough bond, they may use special attacks after your own, or block and counter enemy attacks. I haven't looked at the achievements yet, but I imagine there's going to be a lot this game has to offer me for replayability. But that's all the pros I have so far. Now it's time for the wrath of the cons! Alright folks, I know I praised this game and its looks, but let me give a little bit more detail on that. The character models all look great, and even the NPCs and enemy models look good, but all in all, you can tell this game was developed with the Nintendo Switch in mind. Textures aren't quite as good as they could be, and environmental polygons are lower than the PC would be able to handle. Lighting and character models are exactly what I wanted in the PC version, but I'm surprised the environment doesn't quite meet my expectations. As well, I noticed pre-rendered cutscenes can jitter from time to time. This is the only time I noticed any sort of performance issues. Luckily, it just wasn't during gameplay. There's also no issues with character conversations. But that leads me to another issue that I have with a lot of games, not just Touken Ranbu Warriors, and it's an issue that has slowly become a pet peeve of mine, and that's the existence of pre-rendered cutscenes. They only really benefited the PS1 era where the in-game graphics aged like a fine milk. It was kind of okay during the PS2 era where CRTs were the main type of TV people were playing on, but nowadays I don't know why pre-rendered cutscenes are used instead of in-game ones. It may just be me, but pre-rendered cutscenes always seem to be a little bit more compressed quality-wise. They kind of look more grainy in my opinion. I know this isn't as big of an issue as I'm making it out to be, but the fact that it seems these pre-rendered cutscenes are causing jitters, I just think switching over to in-game cutscenes could have resolved this issue. It's not just the visuals that lead me to believe that this was built more for the Switch. One thing that I mentioned in both previous demo videos is the fact that the demo takes place primarily on smaller and very short stages. Though the stages do get larger and longer, they never reach the same feeling as previous Warriors titles. Most stages take maybe about 5 to 10 minutes. These, at times, feel like the smaller stages that you'd get in Sengoku Basara Sanada Yukimura-den. Though unlike that, we don't get a mix of these smaller, shorter, interconnected stages and larger scale all-out war battles. I kind of understand why they went this way. The Touken job is to take out the HRA and gently nudge the timeline back on track. They do their best not to become a major part of history. They only interact with people if it's necessary and do their best to remain a mystery. But that doesn't mean large-scale battles against the HRA can't happen. I think another thing that holds this title back from doing large-scale battles is the fact that the Touken are just made up of warriors. They're not an army. The whole first chapter takes place around the 5th team, which is just the 2 Yamanbagiris. So it would be difficult to make a full-scale battlefield with only 2 officers and no foot soldiers. Not impossible, but difficult. This isn't a good excuse, but one way that I can understand the choice. Speaking of which, this leads to another point that I want to make, and that's how the tutorial gives you the opportunity to try out all but one character in this game. But then the first chapter hits and you are only using 2 characters. That's it. The demo did a good job of showing the variety of characters, but when you look at it as an opening to the full game, it probably could have been done much better. Choosing just the Yamanbagiris to be the only 2 playable characters for the first chapter isn't a bad idea. I just think that the tutorial part would have been better to focus on these 2 specifically. You can still have the other teams in cutscenes and stuff, but unlock the other teams as the player goes through the different chapters. Luckily though, you aren't solely expected to go through the whole first chapter with just these 2 characters. Some stages will allow you to select a random character from those who have been assigned to different parts of the Honmaru. The only thing I don't like about this is that the randomly selected character doesn't change anything about the stage. It plays out as if you were one of the 2 characters that were meant to play through that stage. It feels weird. I think it would have been better to just have the player slowly unlock the full roster instead of giving them everyone, but only letting you play as 2 and maybe some random ones here and there. I will also mention that I'm a little disappointed that this is Switch and PC exclusive. I tried to do some research to see if Nintendo had any hand in on this decision, but I couldn't find an answer. It's not uncommon for someone like Nintendo, Sony, or Microsoft to pay for a console exclusivity and allow a PC release. It could also be that they were designing this game with these smaller stages in mind before deciding which console to release it on, and chose the Switch specifically because it feels more suited for a handheld experience. But even if that's the case, if you have the choice, why would you limit your potential player base? I can kind of understand not releasing it on Xbox because that player base isn't quite as weebish as the others, but at least also put it on PlayStation. Maybe then the pre-rendered cutscenes wouldn't jitter on me. I will also mention the fact that this only has Japanese voices. I'll mention this fact in every Warriors game until we can consistently get a dub again. Sometimes it can be understandable when the title you're bringing over is steeped heavily in Japanese culture, but as understandable as it can be, it doesn't help with the disappointment. Though Touken Ranbu Warriors is very Japanese, I'd still want to be able to understand what's going on during battle. Not to mention the fact that there is a dub of the anime, so we have some voices already. My final point is going to be for those interested in the Digital Deluxe Edition. My biggest thing is always costumes. If I'm going to be playing a bunch of stages as the same character, I love to change costumes to keep things fresh. I really use them when I'm grinding away. But the issue with Touken Ranbu Warriors and its costumes is that you can only use the costumes in either the Honmaru or during replays, which is this game's free mode. If these additional costumes were purchased as post-game DLC, I would understand that a little bit more, but when provided as additional content for a deluxe edition, I think that it would have been more appropriate to allow the player to take advantage of that additional content during the story. Maybe there's additional DLC coming in the future and they're just planning ahead, but I just wanted to take advantage of this, especially seeing how you're primarily playing as the 2 Yamanbagiris during the first chapter. in the end, Touken Ranbu Warriors was exactly what I expected. If you're jumping into this game thinking it's going to take the Warriors franchise into the next phase of its evolution, you're going to have a bad time. Touken Ranbu Warriors is better viewed as a gateway title for newcomers to the franchise and genre. Knowing this, I went in expecting an anime-level story with a chill gameplay loop, and this game absolutely delivered. And that's why I give Touken Ranbu Warriors a thumbs up. Although I was disappointed in the lack of large-scale battlefields, the way these stages are designed makes sense for the gameplay loop of Touken Ranbu Warriors. I honestly don't mind these shorter stages, thinking that this isn't going to be the next big Warriors title. What keeps me coming back more than the gameplay though is the story. I'm intrigued by the story so far. I only just started the second chapter and it revolves around the 4th team and Masamune. I also like how they put the surnames first in this game. I don't know why Samurai Warriors and Sengoku Basara decided to use the Western method of names. It might throw you off a bit starting out to say Hashiba Hideyoshi, but it does make me happy to see. The combat is a bit more on the simplistic side, but it's not as bad as other gameplay styles we've seen before. I wasn't a fan of the Ranbu system, nor was I a fan of the state combo system. This one that we have here with Touken Ranbu Warriors isn't quite as good as the charge attack system of old, but it does feel good in practice. I did notice myself needing to pay attention when I was playing on hard and dodging at the right time. When using special attacks, you're not as invincible as you feel. You can still take damage. It's likewise for certain enemies, so it's a risk and reward situation. If you're looking for a challenge, hard difficulty may provide, so I do recommend going for that right off the start. That's how I started out, but I did notice myself getting pretty close to death at the end of too many stages, so I dropped it down to normal to be a little bit more comfortable. As far as who I would recommend this game to, if you're new to hack and slash games and the Musou franchise, this is a great game to experience the mechanics and basic gameplay loop before jumping into a larger Musou title. I'd also recommend Touken Ranbu Warriors to those who enjoy a chill Warriors experience. If you're like me and you have moments where you just want to throw the game on easy even though you're already level 100 with a super secret weapon, and you just want to rapidly hit square and watch the numbers go up, this may be a good game for you to just lay back and enjoy the story. And of course, the last person I'd recommend this game to would be the ones who like their pretty anime boys. You know who you are. The character conversations have a similar feeling to visual novels, so if you're really into otome games, you might enjoy this. I know these boys aren't pining over the player or a self-insert, but they're still pretty, and that's what matters. Anyways, everybody, thank you so much for watching my mini review on Touken Ranbu Warriors. If you enjoyed it, give it a like and subscribe for more. Also, let me know who's your favorite Touken Danshi down in the comments below. And if you'd like to help support the channel and what I do here, you can join the guild just like these awesome people that you're seeing on screen right now. You can join them at the end of every single video for just $1 a month over on Patreon. And if you'd like to donate in a one-time basis, you can join the volunteer unit over on Ko-fi. There are other rewards and other tiers as well, so check out the links that you see on screen, and I will see you all down in the comments.